Now that I've made progress on my article, I have my title, my author, I've laid the text in so it's readable, I worked with the font and the font color, I added in some pictures. The last thing I want to do is work with the last part of the article. And you can see here there's a list of statistics and there's some quotes. When it's left in text form like this, it isn't very interesting to the reader. And this is where, as graphic designers, we really want to take this data and make it way more interesting to look at. So I can see, looking at it, there's some percentages and some statistics about people's opinions on cats. I want to take those percentages and make them into graphics so that they're much more interesting to look at. Looking at the quotes, I want to put the quotes in something visual so that they just stand out. So I kind of have a plan of attack here. I'm going to do paw prints with the percentages inside, and then I'll have the statistic kind of next to the graphic. That's my plan for that part. And then for the quotes, I'm going to put them inside of some word bubbles that I found. So that's sort of my plan. I'm going to copy this and delete it from this area because I'm going to need this area to lay it out. I am going to leave the titles so that people understand what they're looking at. And that kind of helps me space it out too. I'll have a spot for the kitten stats, and then the kitten quotes can be at the bottom, and they're about the same kind of area. I should probably make this bold so at least the article it's consistent. So there we go, kitten stats, kitten quotes. And then I'm going to click off of everything. I'm going to make a text box. And I'm going to put my text over here that I'm working at so that I just have it out of the way and I can start copying and pasting it in as I make my graphics. I may want to lock some things in place. For example, if I don't want the text moving on me as I'm building the statistics and quotes on top, we remember you go Object, Lock, Selection. And it's going to temporarily keep things from moving. So that's really helpful to me so I can work right here. So first thing I'm going to do to make a graphic is I'm going to work with a picture that I'm going to be manipulating. And I believe it was a picture of a paw print that I found on Google. Now this is a PNG file, so it's a little bit different. So when we place it in, what you can see if I zoom out, it's a nice big file, which is good, but there isn't a background. There's no white around it. A PNG file is basically a photograph that the computer only knows what the photograph is. It doesn't see the background. So that kind of looks nice for me because then I have the space I created with the texture of the tiger, and I don't have to worry about having a big white space around this that I have to delete. So I have my paw print here, and I'm going to make a text box on top. The first percentage I'm going to need to add in is 100%. So I have that picture. I'm going to grab my T tool, I'm going to make a text box, put in 100%. And if it's black, you're not going to be able to see it, so I'm going to highlight it. Click on the box over here, double click quickly. I think if it's an orangey color, that's a lighter orange, it'll kind of relate to the tiger and it'll stand out. So I changed the color. I'm going to take my text box. I'm going to move it and adjust the size so it's kind of lined up with the paw print. I'm going to center it because that'll just make it look nice as well. And I also think it's way too small. So if I highlight it, here's my font size. If I hit the up button, I can just nudge it up and up in size until I think it really fits in that paw print. So there we go, 100%. So I can have that and then the list of what 100% means in the article kind of next to it. But I now have two separate things. I have a text box, I have my graphic. I want them to be one thing. So how I do that is I'm going to take my arrow tool, I'm going to draw a box over both. You can see it's selected both. And I do something called Object Group. So now when I move this around, it's one thing, and so I don't have to worry about it losing the text box or losing the paw print. I also think it's too big right now. So if I hold down the Shift key and adjust it, it's going to adjust both the text box and the paw print together. So that's also really, really helpful. So I've got that graphic. I could come on over here, grab 100% of all pet owners find kittens adorable. I could not agree with that more. So I'm going to copy that, Command C. I'm going to grab a text box for where I want that to go. It's going to go right next to the paw print. And I can paste it. And I may kind of use the keyboard to kind of adjust it up and down. Maybe make the font stand out, but I actually think that looks okay. So now I want to reuse this and just change the percentage. So I clicked on my object that's grouped. I'm going to Command C, copy it. And now Command V, I can paste it. And I'll have another paw print kind of over here. And this time I need the quote 60% because pet owners prefer kittens to dogs. So if I take my T tool and I click in here, I can actually change this without having to recreate the graphic. So 60%. There's that. I can come on over here, select this with the T tool. I just double clicked on it to highlight it. Did Command C, copied it. I'm going to click off of it. Create a text box for where I want it. It's going to go right there. And then Command V, paste it in. So 60% of pet owners prefer kittens to dogs. So now I just need one more spot. And I think I'm going to have it kind of be right over here so it sort of looks like paw prints are actually on the paper. And I have to do the number 50% for this one. So I'm going to grab my T tool, click into the percentage, highlight it, retype it as 50, and then same thing. Click off of everything, unselect it, come on over here, grab my T, or you can just double click into it, highlight it, copy, click off of everything, make a text box, drag it where you want it to go, and paste. There you go. This one I want a little bit down and a little bit closer. There we go. It is a lot of blank space, so I could make this font bigger so that it takes up more space. To do that, I can highlight all three text boxes at the same time. Just push that up arrow until I feel like it's taking up more space. This one got a little cut off, as you can see, so I can just go on in, drag it down, and now it's actually taking up the appropriate space. The next thing I'm going to do is make a graphic for the quotes. So same thing. I remember I went on Google, I grabbed myself a word bubble. So I'm going to go File, Place. Find my word bubble. It should also be a PNG file. And as we can see, as I zoom out, it's a huge file, but it does have kind of a cool shadow with it. And again, the background is deleted, which is super handy to me. So I'm going to hold down Shift, adjust the size, and it looks like I have 3 quotes I've got to work with. So there's one, I copied and pasted. Here's another one in this corner. Then I need one in the middle. Now it may be nice to make it look like the quotes are coming from different people saying it. So having the point of the word bubble go in a different direction might be just kind of a nice graphic thing to think about. So I can do Object, Transform, Reflect, and that's going to flip it. So that's just kind of a handy thing. I'm going to have this one kind of in the bottom and then have this one come up to the top. I'm just moving it around to make it look nice. This one can go over a little bit. There we go. So now I have 3 word bubbles that I can put my quotes inside of. So looking at it, I have a kitten is in the animal world what a rosebud is in the garden by this guy Robert. So I'm going to highlight that, copy it, come on over here, make a text box on top of here, and paste. And this is where I may want to nudge it down a little bit. It may be something that we center so that it looks nice in the document. I'm just using the arrow keys to adjust. And there's my quote. And I can do the same thing with the next quote. Poems are soft kitten fur, smoothing out the rough edges of my world. How sweet is that? So then, grab my T, right on top of the word bubble, paste it in. One nice trick you could do to make it look like it's different people is change the font. So I could do, that looks very different, and I think that's nice. I like that. I'm going to come over to the formatting and hit center so that it just looks nice in the bubble. And then grab my selection tool, and now I can kind of move it around with the arrow. And that looks good to me. Got one more here. This one's a little bit longer, so we might have a tricky time fitting it in, but we'll see. So come on over here, grab the T, put it on top, paste it. Looks like it's gonna fit just fine. And this one, I wanna find a font that looks nice. I think that's pretty good. It is a bigger font, but that's okay. I centered it, clicked my arrow tool so that the selection is just the text box, but not the text itself. Move it around, and there we go. Now it looks like sort of three different people saying these three different quotes. I don't need this over here anymore, so I'm gonna delete it. I could leave it, it wouldn't necessarily show up in your document, but sometimes that'll slow it from saving. So if I zoom out, I can kind of see my finished article. I've got pictures, I've got graphics that explain those stats and makes them more interesting. I put the quotes in bubbles and they have a little bit of a shadow. I really like that. I'll probably want to just give it a quick read over to make sure it looks right. But this looks like a done article to me. So I'm going to go ahead and save it. And here's an important step you're going to want to remember is you're going to save it also as something called a PDF. A PDF is a file type that is a little bit smaller, so it's easy to print quickly, but it also locks everything in place. You want the Adobe Illustrator file, which you can go back and edit if we find mistakes, but you also want the PDF. So to do that, I go File, Save As, and right here under Format, I just click Adobe PDF. I also want that saved into my folder. So I'm going to click Save, Save PDF. Now if we quit out of Illustrator, and then clear clipboard, that's just some of the things we copied over. I go into my file, the Kitten Project, and I look for that PDF. There we are. I can open it up, and then you can kind of see what it actually looks like. So let me zoom out here. You can see that you can't see any of that stuff that was in your Illustrator file anymore. It's just a document. And this is what it would look like when you go to print it. So it's a pretty nice looking article. The last thing I would do is if I really think I'm done, I'm going to drop that file into the Turn In folder on the server. And we remember we use the Shabazz login to get to that Turn In folder in the Yearbook folder on the server.